I'm Kimberly of Happy Gals Vintage. Thanks for tuning in to watch this video today. I'm so glad you're here, and today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite things, and that is teacups, and specifically why you might want to start your own collection of vintage and antique teacups. We're going to talk about 10 reasons why they are a great thing to collect. And I have some great teacups here in front of me and also behind me and on other shelves around me because in our Happy Gals Vintage shop we sell lots and lots of beautiful vintage and antique teacups, and we have for years. So if you are interested in any of the teacups that you see during this video or other vintage and antique teacups, please do check out our shop, Happy Gals Vintage, and there will be links in the description below this video, so you can just click on it and go right to our Happy Gals Vintage shop and check everything out. And there's also links to my other two Etsy shops as well, so you can check out the handmade items there, art and jewelry and crystal wands. But let's just get started now with talking about the 10 reasons that you might want to start a collection of vintage and antique teacups. Now, the first reason is simply that they are beautiful. Each teacup is a work of art. Many of them are hand embellished or hand painted or hand produced by artisans. And the fun thing about vintage and antique teacups is each one has so much personality, and many of the teacups are limited editions. So when you get a teacup, an older limited edition teacup, it's something really special. It's like a work of art. And this one in particular that I'm holding is really quite something. It's a lusterware teacup, so it has this sort of pearly finish to it. It has a reticulated saucer, with the cutout around the edges. It's a footed teacup, which is fun. It makes it fancier. And it has this pretty violets sort of design on the saucer and the matching teacup. And the handle is really interesting on this one too. And every vintage and antique teacup out there has something about it that makes it fun and unique and special. And so when you collect vintage and antique teacups, you can really make a collection that is about what you really personally prefer and what you like. So I know there are some people out there that will just collect pink teacups or green teacups, or they will only collect certain styles of teacups, maybe teacups that are only from certain countries. You can even collect certain types of porcelain. For instance, this is an eggshell porcelain teacup, and I'm not sure if you can tell in the video, but it's just very, very thin, delicate porcelain. And this is a really beautiful hand-painted eggshell teacup from Japan. And that one's in our shop. All of these are in our shop. That is the first reason that many people will start a collection of vintage and antique teacups, is simply that they are beautiful. Now, reason number 2 is that as far as collectibles go, they don't take up a lot of room. Generally, teacups are fairly small, so if you have a collection of, say, a dozen teacups or something, you can pretty much just have them on one small shelf, and they will fit quite nicely and look very beautiful. And that is a consideration for many people who want to start a collection of something. They say, well, I'd like to collect things, but I don't have any space. Well, teacups are fun because they don't take up a lot of space. And if you're really tight on space, you can even stack them a little bit, like I'm doing back here. I wouldn't recommend stacking them very high, and I wouldn't recommend stacking them in any kind of area where they're going to get jostled at all, because then you could have a catastrophe, and I don't want that to happen. However, generally, it's okay to maybe stack them just 2 at a time like this, as long as they're in a spot where, like I said, the shelf won't get bumped or anything like that. Generally, if you can keep them all just on their own level, That's probably safer and better, but I've seen many people that display their teacups stacked, and that is an option. But generally, teacups just aren't that large and they don't take up that much room. And because they are beautiful, you can put them in different spots throughout the house. They don't necessarily have to be just in one spot in your house or your apartment. You could have them spread out in different places. Now, reason number 3 that you might want to start a teacup collection is that vintage and antique teacups are a relatively affordable thing to collect. You're not going to break the bank even on a very nice vintage or antique teacup. Now, the ones in our shop range from, I would say, around $14 all the way up to $65 or something like that. And sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher than that, but that's generally the range of prices, and you can get a very nice teacup in all along that range. And so even if you don't have a lot of money, you can still invest in teacups and get a nice little collection going pretty quickly. Obviously, when you get into the older teacups, they're going to cost a little bit more. The antique teacups are going to tend to cost a little bit more than the ones that are just vintage. The antique are the ones that are 100 years or older, and the vintage teacups are 25 years or older. Also, when you get into the more fancy, sort of gilded teacups, the teacups with more fancy detailing, or like this particular set here comes with a snack plate as well, so we've got a triple set going here. Those cost a little bit more, but generally even the pretty fancy teacups that we have in our Happy Gals Vintage shop are still very affordable. Okay, now reason number 4 for collecting vintage and antique teacups is often they will go up in value. Now, it's fun to collect things for sure and have beautiful things around us that we love, but it's also great when the things that we are collecting will actually gain in value over the years. That way we don't feel like we're just investing in something that we can never get our money back out of again. So if you are selective in the vintage and antique teacups that you purchase for your collection, you could definitely have a gorgeous collection of teacups that in time are going to go up in value. Now, I have many videos on my channel here and many videos about teacups, and one of the videos is how to collect teacups and things to avoid, and it's one of my most popular videos. So you might want to check that out, because that tells you what not to get if you're trying to start a collection of vintage and antique teacups that are going to go up in value over the years. Now, the 5th reason that you might want to collect vintage and antique teacups is that they are actually a useful item. Now, many people will get teased if they have a collection of something that really has no purpose. People will be like, oh, you're wasting your money on that, it's just sitting on a shelf, you can't use it for anything. And that's one fun thing about vintage and antique teacups, is there's a history of this item being used, obviously, for drinking tea. And the history goes way, way back, right? In the Orient as well as in England, there's a very rich history of tea drinking and teacups, specifically for royalty and everybody now. We don't have to be royalty anymore to have a gorgeous teacup. And drinking tea is an art all to itself. And I do also have a video, and I'll link it in the description below. It's a video about tea, sort of the richness of the drinking of tea, the heritage of tea. What is drinking tea all about? Why is it such a special thing to so many people in the world, and has been for so many years? That's the 5th reason, is simply that it's a very useful item with a very rich history. Now, the number 6th reason that you might want to collect vintage and antique teacups is that by doing so, you become a part of a very fun community of people that is worldwide that are doing the same thing as you and that are interested in learning about teacups and sharing the teacups that they're collecting and talking about teacups. And so when you start getting into collecting teacups, you can kind of join in, maybe locally in your community or for sure online, and start to meet other like-minded people. For instance, like on my YouTube channel, we have a lot of videos and you can kind of chime in and comment on and talk about your collection and ask questions, and I will respond, and other people in the community hopefully can respond as well. And also I have a Facebook page for Happy Gals Vintage that you should definitely check out, and on there as well people will chime in and I'll list teacups from the shop, and people will say, hey, I have one of those, or you know, do you have this particular kind, or you know, so it's just fun to sort of know that you're connecting with a lot of people from all over the world who are also interested in the same thing that you're interested in. So that is reason number 6. I had to look at my list over there to make sure I had the right number. Simply that you become a part of a vintage and antique teacup community of like-minded, wonderful folks. Number 7 is just that they are a decorative item that you can use in your house, right? So you can definitely use them to drink tea out of, for sure, but they also are just beautiful to decorate with. And many people will use vintage teacups in different ways to decorate. Like I said before, you could put a plant in it, you could fill it with nuts or candies, you could use it for soaps in the bathroom. I have also seen where people will make a pin cushion out of it, so you kind of stuff it and then you wrap the top with like some silk or some cotton, you know, gingham fabric or something like that, and the teacup actually makes a really pretty pin cushion, which is kind of a fun idea. I've also seen where people will make bird feeders and things out of beautiful vintage and antique teacups. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with vintage teacups besides just have them on a shelf. There's all types of ways that you can enjoy vintage teacups, decorating around your house and creating things with them. They are fun for all ages of folks. So I know that many older ladies, like older than myself, I'm 50, and many of the people who are my customers are women and men, but probably more women than men, but I'm getting more and more men all the time that are interested in collecting vintage and antique teacups. But many of them are women who are my age or older, and they like the history and can remember, you know, drinking tea with their grandmother or their mother, and so definitely there is a clientele out there, a group of people that are, you know, my age, middle age, retirement age. I hate that description, middle age, because what does that mean? And I don't feel middle aged. I feel awesome. So I think I feel better than I ever have in my entire life. So don't anybody let your age stop you, whether you're young, old, whatever you are. Just do what you want to do and have fun, right? That's my motto. But the great thing about teacups is really all ages can enjoy them, because even young kids love tea parties, right? Who doesn't love a tea party? And who growing up didn't have a tea party at some point, right? With your own like little tea set, or maybe you borrowed some cups from the kitchen and you know, you set out your little tea party, and then you invited your dolls, right? And your friend from across the street and your brother or your sister or whoever, right? And or mom or dad, and you have them come sit at the table with you, and then you had a tea party, and maybe you didn't even have any tea, right? Maybe you used lemonade, or maybe there was nothing in the cups. It didn't matter, because in your imagination there was tea, and it was just the fun, the idea of having a tea party. And really, all ages can enjoy a good tea party. That's another reason to collect vintage teacups, because if you have younger kids in your life, or older folks in your life, or maybe like combine them and say, hey, come on over, we're gonna have a tea party, and everybody is gonna have fun with that. And you can even have people dress up a little bit, you know, and make it more of a fancy occasion that you're having tea. And tea is not very expensive either, so you can have a tea party with just a few dollars, and you know, a few biscuits or crackers or something to go with it, and you're all set. So that's really fun too. And I know right now, you know, we're in the middle of this whole corona epidemic, and so we kind of have to do like social distancing, so maybe a tea party isn't going to work right now, but I'm hoping we're going to come through all this. I know we will eventually, and so we'll be able to get more in touch with each other closer like that around a table again. But again, tea parties are another fun reason to collect vintage and antique teacups, because when you are ready to have a tea party, you'll be all set. You've got all your teacups ready to go. Number 9, the next reason to collect vintage and antique teacups is that just the quality and the craftsmanship that is in each teacup. And this again is along the lines of the fact that they're beautiful, like they're a piece of art, but just practical terms, you know, teacups, one of the reasons there are so many antique teacups floating around is that porcelain is actually an incredibly strong material. You know, they say that porcelain with just, you know, pound per pound weight on it is as strong as steel or stronger than steel, which sounds incredible. It sounds like that couldn't possibly be true, but porcelain is incredibly strong. It's not as strong as far as like impact resistant, right? Because we all know if you throw a porcelain teacup or a ceramic teacup on the floor with any force, you could crack it. Although I have dropped porcelain and antique teacups over the years because I've had so many come through our shop, and I'm amazed at how many times I'll drop one from several feet and pick it up and it's fine, like no damage. But don't test it, right? Don't test me on that to see if that will work with your collection. Because chances are it'll crack. They're amazing how well made most vintage and antique teacups are. Not all, right? And again, like I said, I have that video about things to avoid when you're shopping for a vintage and antique teacup. So I would really recommend you watch that video before you start collecting. If you're brand new to this, or if you're just starting out and you're not sure about what the things are that you should be avoiding, definitely check out that video because it'll help you. But I think that that's a really good reason to collect vintage and antique teacups, is that if you get the good ones, they are such a high quality, well-made item. It's nice to collect something that you can really have pride in, right? Which you know is high quality. Now, number 10, the last reason, is the history, right? The history behind vintage teacups. And I touched on this a little bit in one of the earlier points, but it's a good point all on its own, is simply that there's such a rich heritage behind teacups. Porcelain in general, really. Vintage and antique porcelain has a very rich history. It's a worldwide history, right? So there are many vintage and antique teacup and modern day teacup makers from various parts of the world. And that can be really fun to have a collection that comes from different places, you know, and to try to expand your collection. Like this one, for instance, is from Austria. And they make just beautiful teacups over there, and this one it has a very unique sort of shape and style to it, this sort of rounded, soft sort of edge. Even the saucer has kind of a bowl look and feel to it. And I really like teacups that are from Austria. I also like the Bavarian and the German porcelain teacups. They have a really unique and rich, ornate kind of look to many of them, which I really enjoy. So that's another reason why vintage and antique teacups are fun to collect, because they have a rich heritage, a rich history, and they come from a variety of cultures and countries all around the world. And that makes for a collection that is truly spectacular and something to be proud of. Now, those are my 10 reasons that I came up with of why you might want to collect vintage and antique teacups. But maybe you have other ideas, other things that you're thinking of, or reasons why you collect vintage and antique teacups. So I hope you will share them below in the comments, and please let us all know. Also, remember, in the description below this video, there are links to the Happy Gals Vintage shop and my other Etsy shops. If you liked this video, please do click the like button for us. That's really helpful for our channel and for our business. And also, if you want to watch more videos about vintage and antique teacups, I do have a whole series about them, and I'm going to make even more. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you click the bell notification, you'll even get an email to let you know whenever we upload a new video. I do love making videos, and I love connecting with you guys and talking about teacups, and talking about my shops and the different products that I do sell on Etsy. So thank you all again for watching. I hope you have a really wonderful day. It is beautiful here in Vermont today, a sunny summer gorgeous day, and I hope it's just as beautiful where you are. And thank you, and have an awesome rest of the day.